when did you last make a genuinely new friend?
That's a loaded question right out of the gate.
I know, right? Just think about it for a minute. I mean, when was the last time you let a completely new person into your life?
And we should probably set some ground rules here.
Oh, absolutely. So let's establish the rules. I do not mean your new coworker who you sometimes send sarcastic memes to on Slack while the boss isn't looking.
Right. And we definitely don't mean your partner's friend who you are basically just forced to tolerate at dinner parties while politely nodding through their home renovation stories.
Exactly. No forced proximity contacts. I mean, a completely new, independent, absolutely standalone connection.
Your own connection.
Yeah. Someone you met literally from scratch in some physical space where you felt that sudden spark of commonality, laughed at the same joke, and just, started hanging out.
Which is incredibly rare now.
If you are currently over the age of 25, there is a massive, just gigantic probability that you are staring blankly at a wall right now, blinking, trying to remember what decade that even happened in.
And it's a really strange, deeply uncomfortable feeling, isn't it?
It really is.
You start to think, is there something wrong with me? Did I become boring? Have I completely lost all my social skills?
Yes. You think, maybe I'm just too tired. Maybe I don't give off that welcoming energy that attracts people anymore.
It's so easy to internalize it.
But the whole mission of our deep dive today is to take that massive weight of guilt completely off your shoulders.
Because it's not you.
Right. If making friends as an adult feels practically impossible right now, you aren't imagining things. It is not paranoia. It is an objective, data-backed reality.
And that is such a crucial distinction. It's exactly where we need to start. What we are experiencing right now, what you are feeling in your daily life, is not a personal failure.
You are not broken.
Exactly. You aren't broken. What's broken is the structure around us. We are looking at a massive structural collapse.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today, we have an absolute mountain of evidence on the table.
We really do.
We're going to dissect a whole stack of sociological research. We're diving into official data from the U.S. Surgeon General, and we're going to break down the classic book by sociologist Ray Oldenburg called The Great Good Place.
Because we need to understand this modern crisis that almost everyone is mistaking for their own personal social awkwardness.
We are living in an environment that is now architecturally and economically hostile to casual human contact.
Hostile is the perfect word for it. And to show just how deep this rabbit hole goes, we have to look at the statistics.
The numbers are wild.
They are. Because when people talk about the loneliness epidemic, it often just sounds like a bad vibe. Like people are just listening to sad music and feeling sorry for themselves.
Right, like it's just a mood.
But the numbers paint a genuinely horrifying picture.
Oh man, the Statista and Gallup data. They compared the social landscape of 1990 to 2021.
And the drop is staggering.
When I first saw these numbers, I honestly thought there was a typo in the research. In 1990, 33% of American adults reported having 10 or more close friends.
A third of the population.
A third. Can you even imagine having 10 close friends today?
Just maintaining the group chats would be a full-time job.
Seriously, how much time would it take just to text them all back?
Yeah.
But in 1990, that was the norm.
It was standard.
So fast forward to 2021. What happened to that 33%? It plummeted to 13%.
Which is bad enough.
But wait, it gets worse. That isn't even the scariest part.
The scariest part is the other end of the spectrum. The number of people checking the box that says, I have 0 close friends.
0. Nobody.
In 1990, that was only 3% of the population. Basically a statistical anomaly.
Right.
By 2021, that number quadrupled. 12%. 1 in 8 adults has absolutely no one they can confide in.
And your immediate instinct is to say, well, obviously that's the pandemic. Everyone was locked inside, so there's your answer.
Right, but the pandemic was just gasoline. The fire had been burning for a long time. Sociologists point to a whole series of shifts that started way before 2020.
Like what?
Well, first, people are marrying later. Historically, getting married in your early 20s automatically integrated you into your partner's family. You got mutual friends. Your kids played with their kids.
It was an instant social network.
Exactly. Now we have this much longer period of independent, often isolated adult life. And second, we've become hypermobile.
Geographically mobile.
Yes, we constantly move. You finish high school in one city, you go to college in a second city, you get your first job in a third, and then you get transferred to a branch in a fourth city.
And every single time you pack those boxes, you leave your social network behind.
You have to rebuild from scratch. And building a social network at 22 versus 32, those are two completely different sports.
especially when you factor in how much we work. We work in longer hours, we travel more for our jobs, and if you add kids into the mix,
That's where the real paradox
it
is.
really is. You'd think back in the day, families had 4 or 5 kids, and people still somehow found time for their buddies.
Mhm.
But now, modern parents are spending twice as much time with their children compared to parents in the 70s or 80s.
It's the phenomenon of intensive parenting.
Helicopter parenting.
Parenting has basically become a resource management project. You have to drive the kids to travel soccer, to coding camp, to therapy. You have to help them build a diorama for school.
This pressure literally crowds out any other type of relationship. You physically run out of hours in the day to maintain adult friendships. They get pushed entirely to the margins.
So if we summarize the baseline here,
We work like crazy, we constantly move and lose our contacts, and whatever tiny scrap of energy we have left goes straight into our kids or our careers.
it's the perfect recipe for a society of exhausted, isolated islands.
And this is where I want to take a really sharp turn in this deep dive, because up until now, we've been talking about this like it's just sad, a bummer.
Right.
But the advisory from the U.S. Surgeon General and the research by Dr. Julianne Holt-Lundstad, they tell us this isn't just sad, it is killing us, literally.
It's a brutal pivot from sociology directly into physiology. We are so used to framing loneliness as just an emotional state.
Or feeling.
But medically speaking, loneliness is a lethal condition. Social isolation increases the risk of premature death by 29%.
Wait, hold on. Let me just process that. Just the fact that I don't have anyone to talk to increases my chances of dying early by nearly a third.
That's what the data shows. And if you live alone, if you physically reside by yourself, that risk jumps to 32%.
That is insane.
Dr. Holt-Lundstad conducted a meta-analysis of dozens of studies, and the conclusion was so shocking that the Surgeon General issued a formal advisory.
The cigarette statistic.
Yes. The impact of lacking social connection on our mortality is statistically equivalent to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day.
Pause. 15 cigarettes. You mean to tell me if I sit alone in my apartment all weekend, binge watching Netflix, and not speaking to a single human being, I am biologically doing the same damage to my body as if I just chain smoked nearly a pack of Marlboros?
Physiologically, yes. In fact, it's statistically more dangerous for your survival than obesity or physical inactivity.
How is that even possible?
Smaller social networks are directly linked to a higher risk of type 2 diabetes, heart attacks, strokes, and kidney disease.
But mechanically, how does that work? How does not having a friend ruin my kidneys?
It comes down to evolution. We are social primates. For millions of years, finding yourself separated from the tribe meant certain death. You were going to be eaten by a predator or you were going to starve.
So our bodies panic.
Exactly. When you are isolated, your brain perceives it as an existential threat. Loneliness keeps your nervous system in a state of chronic low-grade stress.
Fight or flight.
Your body pumps out excessive cortisol, and that cortisol causes systemic inflammation throughout your body. It wears down your blood vessels, it suppresses your immune system,
Your body is basically bracing for an attack that never comes.
and that constant simmering tension just destroys your organs over time.
And right here is the darkest, most brutal irony of modern life. Just look at our culture today. We are completely obsessed with optimizing our health.
The wellness industry is booming.
People are dropping insane money on organic groceries. We do intermittent fasting. We wear these smartwatches that track our REM sleep, our blood oxygen, our heart rate variability.
The biohacking trend?
Yes. We are drinking green athletic powder, counting our macros, hoarding longevity supplements, listening to biohacking gurus, and meanwhile, we are collectively dying from structural loneliness.
It perfectly illustrates the problem. We are trying to medicalize and individualize what is fundamentally a social crisis. We are treating the symptoms.
Exactly. We are trying to solve a systemic infrastructure problem with individual consumer choices. No amount of toxic positivity is going to fix this.
A mindfulness coach cannot save you from this.
You cannot meditate your way out of needing social infrastructure. It's like trying to think really hard to grow a new arm. It doesn't work.
So if we accept that this is an infrastructure problem, we have to look at what specific infrastructure we lost.
The physical spaces.
And this is where Ray Oldenburg enters the chat. His fundamental book, The Great Good Place.
Published back in the late 80s, right?
Yes. Oldenburg was a sociologist who noticed that American society, and really Western society in general, was losing something critical. He coined a term that is basically the holy grail for urban planners today.
Third places.
Third places.
And the concept is so simple but so brilliant. Your first place is your home. It's where you sleep, where your family is. It's the private sphere.
Your second place is your workplace or your school. It's where you have duties, where you own a living. And in the second place, you are always part of some hierarchy. You're either the boss or the subordinate.
But the third place is something entirely different. These are neutral, informal, public spaces. Places where you are allowed to just exist.
Historically, these spaces weren't just nice to have, they were the absolute foundation of community. Oldenburg traces them through different eras to show that every great society had its third places.
Like the American Tavern during the Revolution.
Exactly. It wasn't just a place to go drink beer, it was a communication hub. It's where news was debated and political movements were organized.
Or the French Café during the French Revolution. They literally planned the overthrow of the monarchy over coffee and wine.
The political impact of these spaces is huge.
My absolute favorite example from his book, though, has to be the London coffee houses during the Enlightenment, the 17th and 18th centuries. Just picture this space.
It's a great historical visual.
It smelled like smoke, roasted beans, and wet wool. It was incredibly loud, and anybody could walk in off the street if they paid 1 penny.
The penny universities.
Yes. You could have a wealthy merchant, a starving poet, a politician, and a scientist all sitting shoulder to shoulder at the same wooden table. Modern journalism, the Lloyd's of London insurance market, even the Royal Society of Science, all basically started in those coffee houses.
And don't forget the Greek agora, where the entire concept of democracy was born.
Right.
Across all these examples, we see the same pattern. They were places where conversation was the main event. But Oldenburg is very strict about the criteria. Not every cafe is a third place.
Right, because if you walk into a typical chain coffee shop today, you see 20 people wearing noise-canceling headphones, staring at their laptops, aggressively ignoring each other.
That is not a third place. That is a co-working space that happens to sell lattes.
So what makes a real third place?
Oh, what's fascinating here is Oldenburg's core concept, which he calls the leveler effect.
The leveler effect.
A true third place is radically inclusive. When you walk through those doors, the space automatically strips away your corporate title, your social status, and your tax bracket.
You leave your resume at the door.
Exactly. Oldenburg talks a lot about the value of downward association.
What does that mean in practice?
It means that people from higher social classes, people with more money or more education, willingly and happily interact with people lower on the socioeconomic ladder as absolute equals.
Let's paint a picture of this. Imagine a vice president of marketing at some massive tech corporation.
Okay.
His entire day at his second place, his job, is pure stress. KPIs, slide decks, employees who are terrified of him, and board members that he is terrified of. He has to maintain this rigid professional armor all day.
He's constantly performing.
Right. And then, after work, he walks into his local neighborhood pub, the old dingy one. He sits at the bar right next to a local plumber who he sees there every Friday. And they just start arguing about sports.
And in that moment, the plumber does not care that this guy is a VP.
Not even a little bit.
He judges him entirely on whether he's a decent guy and a good conversationalist.
In fact, if the VP tried to pull rank or act arrogant, the plumber and the bartender would just laugh him out of the building.
Exactly.
And Oldenburg points out that for the VP, this pub is a massive psychological buffer. It is a huge relief from the anxiety of the rat race. To be in an environment where you are valued just for your personality or your jokes and not for your economic output, it takes so much pressure off.
It does. And there is another critical trait of the third place we have to mention. Gatherings in these spaces must be 100% unplanned.
Oh man, this is my biggest pet peeve right now. Today, trying to see a friend feels like negotiating a hostage release.
That's scheduling.
It's terrible. You say, hey, how is your schedule next Tuesday at 7:15 p.m.? Oh no, I have Pilates. What about 3 Saturdays from now? We can squeeze in a 45-minute coffee and sync up.
It sounds exactly like a corporate meeting.
You are sending Google Calendar invites to see your friends. In a real third place, you don't need a calendar.
You just know that if you show up, whether it's Tuesday or Saturday, somebody you know will be there. Which brings us to the regulars.
The regulars make the place.
They absolutely set the tone. They make a physical space feel alive. Without regulars, it's just an empty room with chairs.
But aren't regulars usually a bit cliquey?
It can look that way from the outside, but in a healthy third place, regulars naturally accept newcomers. They actually act as the gateway into the broader community.
But wait, let's connect the dots here. If I just walk into a pub, sit down, and start talking to a stranger about the weather, how does that actually become a friendship?
It takes time.
Right, because we started this whole deep dive talking about the 25-plus cliff, how hard it is to make an actual friend. Friendship doesn't just materialize out of thin air. It has a conversion funnel.
And to understand that funnel, we have to look at another classic piece of sociology, a paper from 1973 by a Stanford sociologist named Mark Granovetter.
The strength of weak ties.
Yes. It went on to become one of the most cited papers in the history of sociology. Granovetter basically exposed the hidden mechanics of why third places worked in the first place.
Walk us through the study, because the premise is mind-blowing.
Granovetter wanted to investigate something very practical. How do people actually find jobs? So he interviewed 282 men in a Boston suburb who had recently changed employers.
And he asked them, who gave you the tip about your new job?
Right.
And our intuition immediately screams the answer. We assume, oh, obviously it was their best friends, their brothers, their parents, the people who care about them the most.
Yeah.
The strong ties.
But Granovetter found something totally counterintuitive. The vast majority of these men did not find their jobs through their close friends. They found them through acquaintances, people they rarely saw.
So he divided our social networks into two distinct categories, strong ties and weak ties.
Let's define them. Strong ties are your capsule, your family, your absolute best friends, the people you would call at 3 in the morning if your car broke down on the highway.
And weak ties.
A weak tie is the barista at your local cafe who knows you drink oat milk.
It's the guy you always see reading a sci-fi novel on your train commute.
Exactly. It's the coworker in a totally different department that you only talk to at the vending machine. It's the neighbor you nod to while walking your dog.
So why on earth are these random weak ties the ones getting us jobs?
It's all about social geometry. Sociologists call it the bridge concept. Think about your strong ties. Your 5 closest friends.
Okay.
Chances are they all know each other. You all exist in a tight, sealed social bubble.
We share the same group chat.
Right, which means you are all swimming in the exact same information pool. You read the same news, you hear the same rumors, you know about the exact same job openings. Your strong ties can't offer you new opportunities because they only know what you already know.
But the weak ties.
The weak ties act as local bridges to entirely different social networks. That barista or that guy on the train has their own bubble of 5 best friends that you know nothing about.
So when you talk to them, they bring fresh oxygen into your bubble. New perspectives, a job opening at a company you never considered, and most importantly, new people. This is where it gets incredibly relevant. If we take this weak tie theory and apply it to making adult friends, everything makes sense.
And the mechanics are exactly the same.
Think about it. When you are 28, you don't just walk up to a stranger on the sidewalk and say, hey, I like your vibe. Let's be best friends.
That would be terrifying.
It's super creepy. That is not how it works.
The process is much slower. You go to your local third place regularly. You bump into a weak tie. You just nod and say hello. The next week, you exchange 2 sentences about the terrible music playing on the jukebox.
A week later, you complain about the local traffic.
Exactly. And over time, through this completely unplanned, very low-stakes exposure with zero pressure, that weak tie slowly, organically converts into a strong tie.
It's a pipeline, a friendship assembly line. But here is the absolute tragedy of our modern reality. Without third places, you do not have the physical venue for these casual interactions to happen.
And if you don't have the venue, you don't generate weak ties.
And without weak ties, you have zero pipeline for new friendships after 25. You are just trapped in your shrinking bubble of strong ties.
And it does shrink.
It inevitably shrinks. Someone moves to Denver for work, someone else has 3 kids and drops off the map, someone gets divorced and withdraws. If you aren't constantly feeding new people into the top of the funnel, the system eventually runs dry.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. If these spaces were so vital for our psychological survival and social evolution, where did they go?
Who killed the third place?
It really is a murder mystery.
It is. Who stole our ability to just sit and exist with each other? And if you look at the evidence, the motive was purely financial. It was real estate, rent, and hostile urban design.
Developers and city planners essentially became hostile to informal gathering spaces. They systematically privatized public space. We were pushed into what urbanists call the two-stop model.
Home to work and work to home. And what's in the middle? Traffic. Gridlock. A drive-through window where you buy a burger without ever taking your foot off the brake.
The physical environment literally no longer has the square footage for serendipity. Every single inch of city space has to be monetized, highly functional, or strictly private.
Let's use some real-world analogies that we've all seen happen in our own neighborhoods. Think about that gritty local pub on the corner, the one with the sticky tables where the locals hung out for 30 years.
A classic third place.
What happened to it? The building owner tripled the rent because the neighborhood was gentrifying. The pub died. And what moved in? A WeWork.
The ultimate sterile environment.
A glass-walled co-working space where freelancers pay a premium to sit in soundproof booths, wearing headphones, pretending to be hyper-productive while ignoring everyone around them.
Or look at the American Mall. They were massive commercial enterprises, yes, but in the 80s and 90s, they accidentally functioned as ersatz third places.
They had those huge open plazas, the fountains, the benches.
Teenagers would go there after school just to wander around and run into people. Seniors would walk the concourse in the mornings.
And what happened to those sprawling malls? They died, they went bankrupt, got boarded up, and were bought by e-commerce giants. Now that mall is an Amazon fulfillment center.
Closed to the public.
Just semi-trucks rolling in and out so the driver can drop a cardboard box on your porch, allowing you to never leave your house again. Logistics completely murdered sociology.
Oldenburg actually details this exact dynamic using an older example. He talks about the death of slow commerce.
The drugstore soda fountains.
Right. In the 40s and 50s, the local pharmacy had a soda fountain. It was a primary third place. You'd sit on a stool, buy a soda for a nickel, and stay for an hour chatting with the pharmacist and your neighbors.
So why did they rip the stools out?
The mathematics of capitalism. Oldenburg explains that as minimum wage debates started and service workers began unionizing, the cost of labor went up. Profit margins got squeezed.
So the owner looks at the guy drinking a nickel soda for an hour and thinks, I am losing money on you.
Exactly. The owner realizes, I need turnover. That stool needs a new paying customer every 7 minutes.
And boom, the fast service industry is born. Efficiency and profit margins eradicated the spaces designed for slow, easy relaxation. Just look at the interior design of a modern fast food place.
The hard plastic chairs.
The chairs are actively uncomfortable. The lighting is harsh and aggressive.
Yeah.
Everything about the architecture screams, eat your fries and get out. Make room for the next transactional unit. If you aren't swiping your credit card every few minutes, you are loitering.
And that trained us as consumers to change our own behavior. We now value saving time more than we value human interaction.
100%. We will happily order a coffee on an app and silently grab it off a counter to save 4 minutes rather than stand in line and banter with the barista. We traded our entire social fabric for convenience.
So what does this all mean? We built this flawlessly efficient, frictionless machine for generating profit and delivering goods.
But we deleted the space for actually living. But wait, this is the point where someone is definitely going to argue, hey, you guys just sound like nostalgic boomers.
Yeah.
We don't need soda fountains anymore. We have the internet.
The digital substitution argument.
Right. People say, I have Twitter, I have Reddit, I have my Discord server where my buddies and I game every night. Those are our digital third places. And honestly, sometimes I wonder, isn't that a valid replacement?
It is incredibly seductive to think so, but the Surgeon General's report completely dismantles that idea. We tried to replace physical third places with the internet. But it's an illusion.
The substitution illusion.
It just doesn't work. And there are two fundamental reasons why. First, digital platforms are not neutral public squares. They're owned by massive tech corporations whose entire business model relies on monopolizing your attention.
They aren't trying to create the leveler effect.
Not at all. The algorithms are not optimized for calm, egalitarian conversation. They are optimized to maximize engagement through outrage, anger, and polarization. They want conflict, not community.
What's the second reason?
The biological reality. The data shows that using social media for more than 2 hours a day literally doubles your odds of reporting perceived social isolation.
Doubles it.
It doubles it. Technology isn't facilitating connection, it's displacing in-person engagement. When you type a message in Discord, you don't hear their voice tone, you don't read their micro-expressions. Your body does not release the oxytocin that comes from physical proximity.
You're getting a cheap surrogate. It's the perfect analogy. Relying on social media for connection is like eating fast food when you have scurvy.
That's a dark way to put it, but accurate.
You eat the burger, you get the calories, your stomach feels full so you think you're nourished, but you are slowly dying because you have zero vitamin C. Our social vitamin C is the physical presence of other human beings, and we traded it for likes and retweets.
Which brings us to the ultimate tension point of this whole conversation, the reality we are all stuck in right now.
The third place is dead, physically paved over by rent and culturally replaced by a digital illusion.
But our evolutionary biological need for connection hasn't changed at all. We still desperately need the tribe.
So what do? We take this massive, heavy expectation for human warmth and community, and we try to aggressively cram it into the only two places we have left.
Two-stop model, our first place and our second place.
And they are buckling under the pressure. We are demanding things from our homes and our offices that they were never, ever designed to provide.
Oldenburg predicted this decades ago, and watching it play out is chilling. Let's look at the fallout. First, look at the insane strain on the modern family and romantic relationships.
The nuclear family is just shattering under the weight of it.
Because society now tells us that your spouse needs to be everything. They must be your perfect romantic lover, your financial co-CEO, your co-parent, your therapist, your best friend, and your exclusive source of emotional support.
It's completely unhinged. No single human being can carry that much weight. 50 years ago, if a guy had a terrible day at work, he'd stop at the tavern, complain to his weak ties, vent his frustration, and then go home relatively regulated.
Now he brings all that toxic stress straight into the living room.
He dumps it all on his partner, who is also completely fried from their second place. And then we sit around wondering why divorce rates are so high. We are burning our marriages to the ground because we demand that one person replace an entire village?
And then look at the other side of the equation. Look at what happens to the second place, the workplace.
Oh boy.
Workplaces are becoming incredibly socially toxic because people have nowhere else to go. They desperately try to extract a sense of community from their employer.
Which is legally and economically impossible. A corporation is a machine designed to generate shareholder value. It is not your friend.
But companies try to pretend they are.
This is my absolute favorite thing to hate. Corporate culture. This is the exact root of all those pathetic, forced HR initiatives. The mandatory Friday Zoom trivia sessions where everyone is fake smiling.
We are a family.
Yes, the CEO telling you, we're one big family here. It is so absurd and manipulative. Your manager calls you family, and then 2 months later lays you off via an automated email because quarterly revenue missed projections by 0.5%.
Real families don't exile their children to optimize the budget.
Exactly. It's just a cynical attempt to fill the void left by the death of the third place, usually just to make you work longer hours for less pay.
And it proves that the second place can never replace the third place. You cannot have the leveler effect in a room where someone else signs your paychecks and holds the power to fire you.
So this raises an incredibly tense, open question. Is this even fixable?
We are painted into a corner.
We really are. On one side, hyper-capitalist urban design has physically deleted the gathering spaces. On the other side, digital algorithms are addicting us to isolation. And now, the rise of fully remote work has vaporized even the pathetic scraps of weak-tie socializing we used to get by the office coffee machine.
It's a perfect storm.
Has this combination fundamentally and permanently altered human social geometry? Are we just done?
We have to be brutally honest with the listeners here. We don't have a sunny, easy answer for you.
And we are definitely not going to insult your intelligence with empty wellness culture platitudes.
Or at least no.
I swear, if we end this by telling people to just put themselves out there and join a club, I will lose my mind. Or, take a pottery class. Just drink water and smile at strangers on the subway. It is so dismissive of the structural reality.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on the Titanic. The advice to just join a club completely ignores the friction of modern life.
Think about what joining a club actually entails today in our fractured society. First, you have to research it online. Second, you probably have to pay a membership fee, which isn't cheap because commercial rent is insane.
Then you have to put it in your calendar.
Right. And then, after a grueling 10-hour workday, you have to get back in your car, sit in traffic for 40 minutes, drive to a specific location, and try to perform forced socialization for exactly 1 hour.
It requires a massive amount of scheduled, conscious energy.
And energy is the one resource we have the least of after age 25. It is the exact polar opposite of the effortless, unplanned, low-stakes nature of a real third place. You used to just walk into the neighborhood cafe in your sweatpants on the way home with zero prep and just sit down.
The core issue is that socialization has been turned into a premium service. It is now a luxury commodity that demands money, strict scheduling, and immense effort.
And even if you've never read Ray Oldenburg or heard the term third places, you feel this loss in your bones.
The vacuum is everywhere.
Just go on Reddit, look at forums like Illonely or Redulting. You'll see hundreds of thousands of posts from young professionals all asking the exact same question. How do I make friends after college? Why am I so lonely even though my career is great? Is it normal that my only friends are avatars on Discord?
They are desperately searching for an individual solution to a structural collapse.
So no, we do not have a magic pill to offer you today because one doesn't exist on an individual level. But there is massive, profound value in simply understanding the mechanics of the trap you are in.
Understanding the structure frees you from the shame.
Exactly. When you finally stop blaming yourself for your own isolation, when you realize that the architectural and economic game is actively rigged against casual connection, you can start looking at the world differently.
You start asking better questions. Why are the public parks underfunded? Where did the public benches go? Who benefits from the total privatization of our city streets?
So let's bring this all together. We are a society that is literally medically dying of isolation. And we are dying because we built an environment that completely deleted the physical spaces where casual human connection is allowed to happen.
We traded slow commerce for fast delivery.
We replaced the public squares, the taverns, and the soda fountains with Amazon warehouses, sterile WeWork cubicles, and algorithmic feeds that are engineered to make us angry at each other.
It's a stark reality.
So if you take only one single thing away from this deep dive today, let it be this. If you feel like making new friends is impossibly exhaustingly hard, drop the guilt.
You are not bad at friendship.
You're just trying to swim in a pool that has been drained of all its water. You are living in a world designed to prevent you from connecting.
It's an honest framing.
And as we sign off, instead of giving you a list of life hacks, I want to leave you with one provocative thought to chew on. While you're commuting tomorrow, or doing the dishes, or walking the dog, think about the leveler effect we talked about.
The true third place.
Look at your own life, your own schedule, and the town you live in right now. Ask yourself, is there a single physical space in your town where you are allowed to just walk in, sit down, and exist alongside strangers? A place where you are completely welcome without the expectation that you're going to spend $7 on a latte or produce economic value or be productive?
A place just to be.
And if that space doesn't exist in your life, what does that say about what we've become?
Something to really think about.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of loneliness. Take care of yourselves, stop blaming yourselves, and if you happen to have a tiny bit of energy left this week, maybe try to be that weak tie for someone else who really needs it. See you next time.